Yes. We're just dancing in here while we're listening to the intro tune.
That was oh wow, too close. All right, that was a great song. That was
a good intro.
Very intense.
Thanks to GQ making us sound really good.
GQ? Is that the name of the
Going Quantum. He's a good local guy.
Oh, cool. I enjoyed that.
Beats. There you go. All right. What's up, people? Welcome to Creative Theory Podcast, the show that brings you conversations with visual artists about how they got to where they got, what their day-to-day is like, their goals, their struggles, their thoughts on the art world, and a lot more.
Let's talk about it.
See, I feel like I'm getting good at this talking thing. And today, it's going to be a special one. I'm so happy that we can actually make it happen now because this guest, I tried to get him on the show a couple of times, but he's just so busy and so prolific. I think tough to get the guy in here, but I would say we're blessed. He's a concept artist, designer for video games and movies, and just an all-around good dude. Andrew Domachowski.
Oh, thanks, man.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining.
Pleasure to be here.
I was trying to think as I was bike here today. I was trying to think how I met you the first time, but I'm pretty sure I actually first met your sister when I was working at Norcore, and she was doing a documentary, and I was talking to her. She's like, "You should meet my amazing, talented brother." I was like, "Yeah, who's your brother?" He's like, "Andrew Domachowski," and looked you up and blown away right away.
Well, we hit it off right away, and for those of you who don't know, obviously Ilya is an amazing artist. I have mad respect for your work, and so we just hit it off talking about different techniques and artists we admire, and yeah.
You're too kind.
You're a very good dude, my man.
Thanks. And so when I did the little introduction or about you, concept art is for games and movies, is that what you would usually say?
Yeah, chiefly. So going forward, I more or less want to specialize in film, and that's the majority of the work I was doing at ILM, the job I worked at before I kind of went on and did my own thing. But yeah, for the time being, it's both of those things, and they're fun.
And then currently, you said you're freelancing.
Yeah,
so it can be both, right?
Definitely, yeah. And it's kind of cool because I get to balance between those two things, and sometimes you get very zany, kind of almost cartoony games, and then very moody, serious type film that's a lot more subtle. So I appreciate and enjoy the versatility.
That's what I like as well, and we can definitely get into the movies that you work on later on, just because of the productions lasting a year or more in design. Yeah. Or actually any project, even the one I'm currently on the TV, but still it's a very long project. Some people, it's possible to get bored of one style, so I guess freelance and what you're doing now must be a pretty fun way to just keep yourself excited about art in general.
Yeah, for sure. I feel very fortunate to have the platform to work on a multitude of projects, especially over the years. And yeah, it's always different. You always get different art directors, different production pipelines. Yeah, it's just been very cool overall,
nice.
I would say.
Let's see. We'll get into that, but one thing I wanted to get started with, just because it seems like such an important topic, but kind of at an art show, we were chatting last week with you, and actually Matt Boymier also brought it up about how we're joking that we only see each other at art shows. Like, that's our catch-up place.
I feel like that's my fault.
And that's a thing, and I don't think that's yours. And this is something that I struggled with a lot, and I've spoken about before, where that you have a choice between supporting other artists or making your own art. Not to say that it's only black and white like that, but then once you bring in health and you bring in family, the amount of time you have left for things like that, you have to be quite selective. And so what I want to ask you is, today or these days, do you have a priority list, or what would you say a priority list in life of just like, here are top things in my life and I have to do them, and if there is an art show or a friend's birthday or something, like, can't do it because sometimes you kind of have to go with your priorities, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it probably goes the same for most artists, maybe yourself included. I mean, obviously I have this fire inside me that wants to create as much art as possible, and create it with as much integrity as possible, and so that's a driving force in my life. But then besides that, it's family and close friends, and those things fall in between. I think if there's ever an absence of me socializing with artists, it's just maybe, and I think you're a huge contributor to this, and in fact a big proponent of this, is you're helping the community of art in Vancouver, which is great. And I think for a long time, because I kind of studied a little bit in Los Angeles, and there was a huge blooming community where there would be these hangouts all the time happening almost every weekend.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel that same way in Vancouver, but I think that's just maybe a lie I told myself, and that there is actually a really nice community of artists to hang out, and you know, the snag, live painting things that happen. I think it's just what do you call it, that thing that's a stigma I had about the Vancouver scene, that you know, there's not too many social events, but there really is, and I think it's just up to me to branch out. And
but I completely understand, and I feel like the scene was an art scene, if you want to call it that. It's definitely very much up and down, but also the community that you are part of, which is you could say, I don't know, concept art, design, entertainment industry.
Right.
I could see how that specific group didn't feel like it was completely represented in the way that you're saying, like hangouts, and I'm seeing a lot of them pop up now. And one I would love to want to mention is Pedro Amato's Vault 100. Seems like a pretty cool community building around.
Oh, I don't even know that.
Well, I'll send you a
tell me about that.
Check it out. And so I think they've already started running like a course or two in there, but otherwise it's just a group that meets up. I think on Wednesdays it's artists get together, critique each other's work, show work, and I think they even do weekly assignments, which is pretty sweet. And then I think they do plenaires on weekends now. It's really awesome to see it built up. And I think, so what I was going to say is now it's a little more noticeable of these communities building. And I know when you look at LA, I think the population is a big thing, plus all the industries being there. So when you're saying when you're saying a lot of artists are hanging out, meeting up every week all the time, and I think it's because of that, right? The industry plus people. Yeah,
that sounds great. Pedro Amato is his name?
Yeah.
The fact that we would have a group that would do plein air painting is exciting, because Vancouver has beautiful scenery. It makes me wonder why we haven't done that before. That's
Shame
exciting.
on us if we're not doing it, right? Okay, so but let's get back to priorities. So you also said you do Muay Thai, 4 or 5 times a week?
Yeah, I try to as much as possible.
See, I think that now it makes sense. I think it all comes together. You got your art, you got your health and family, and then that's basically the week is gone.
But also, I'm kind of a social recluse. You know, I feel like I gotta. It's always a struggle finding that balance between, you know, working way too much in front of the computer, which is sometimes necessary to elevate your skill and your art, but then, you know, you need to hang out with your friends and have a few beers and laugh, and that's really important. And having a scheduled thing like Muay Thai, even though I'm not always laughing, getting punched in the face, but it forces you to socialize in that way with a schedule. So maybe it's an excuse, not the best excuse, but there it is.
It's not the fact that, well, you're doing things and you're working and seeing you produce personal pieces.
Right.
I would say very often it's like you said, you have that fire in you, I can tell, and wanting to produce. But the reason why I even asked that question about priorities is just because, that's everyone. You know, everyone's struggle is that, because how do you know if you're doing enough? How do you know if you're learning enough? How do you know if you're not behind?
Yeah.
And I think all these questions basically make us just stay home and draw forever, and then you forget, and then what is life about? And
right.
What is it about?
That's so interesting, because I was talking to a friend recently about this, and we were discussing what kind of keeps us up at night, and when we wake up, what's that thing that lights a fire under our ass and makes us think, can we cuss on this?
Of course. As much as you want.
Okay. What makes us think, oh fuck, am I doing enough? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And for some people it's about money. For some people it's about you know, am I achieving my artistic vision enough? Am I fulfilling that? So for everyone it's different. So I really enjoy hearing about people's own perspective on art, because no one's the same. And I think once you understand people's why, you understand the how, and you know.
And so what is yours? What keeps you up at night?
I think I just want to. When I was a kid, Jurassic Park was a thing for me. And so when I look at art, it's not necessarily a thing to make social commentary on the world. It's more about I want to create the same, or help create the same wonder that I had when I was a 10-year-old kid watching Jurassic Park. And I always thought, man, I want to be part of a team that makes these amazing projects and inspires people. And I just thought, wow, I got to do that for a living. And I've been very fortunate to be part of some really great teams and kind of do that. So
I was saying, and now you're there making movies. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, except now I'm like on my own. So I think the next stage is maybe assembling my own team and making my own projects.
So you would not be jumping back into a studio. It's more so creating
what
you really want.
I don't think I'll ever jump back into a studio again.
Ooh, tell me why.
Well, it's been 9 years of being inside the studio. I don't know if it's been a similar timeline for you. We're around the same age, more or less, right?
I graduated in Art Institute 2011, so
okay.
7 years working.
Okay. So I've a little bit longer than you, but yeah, I just think I've seen different colors, and I mean, without disparaging any sort of details about companies I've worked for.
Are you sure you don't want to do that?
I mean, it would be pretty entertaining, but no, I mean,
9 years is a good chunk. Yeah,
it's a pretty good chunk. You see a lot of different flavors of art directors, and I think the final crux of it was, it dawned on me that nothing I was working on was going to belong to me or my friends. And the more I talked to my friends, and we all kind of had projects of our own, we just kind of got together and realized we want to make it ourselves and have ownership of our own creative projects. And that was really important to me going forward. And yeah, I think working for a studio doesn't allow that as much. I mean, you can try pitching an idea, but then, I don't know.
Eventually someone's still going to grab it.
I think so.
Because someone's going to have to pay for it, right?
I think so. And I'm not saying I might not even be successful in that respect, but I think the notion of trying is important.
And that's something, this is why it's so great to have you here, because you had a lot of experience in the industry. That's something you see, but at least it sounds like you're optimistic about it, because it's something you hear quite a lot about people, you could say, getting burnt out or feel like they're not heard, especially the artistic kind who have artists who have great ideas, and especially I think once you develop those skills of storytelling and visual design and creating in general, I know so many people who do the coolest things ever, and so then it's no wonder why people either get burnt out or they feel like they can't have a voice anymore. But what I said, you're quite positive, so it's nice to hear that you're not, or it doesn't sound like you're jaded, though. You just understand what the industry is, and that's kind of how it is, right?
Yeah, well, my thinking is, I look at people I really admire and respect, all the directors and artists I admire, and I feel like if they've done it, pardon my pronunciation, if they've done it, then, and countless others have done it, then why can't I? That's my rationality. We're human beings. We all have, we have the same utensils basically to carry out our dreams, so why not try it out? And that's just the perspective I come from. So maybe it's a bit of naivete. I'm glad. I talked to a lot of my former coworkers at these previous jobs. I've talked to them, and they almost sounded disillusioned, and they didn't have the same gusto for their dreams as they did 5 or 10 years ago, and that was kind of heartbreaking to me. And I didn't want to stay like that, and I thought that if I stayed at these companies, I would have just been more or less indoctrinated. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Into this paradigm of being this pawn in a system and not creating my own thing. I know that sounds very oppressive, but
but
nothing wrong with working in a company, by the way. Some of the best times of my life were, of course.
I like how you preface that, but a lot of people joke about that idea of, you stay somewhere too long, you just kind of give up on all your ideas and make someone else's. And you are helping to make someone else's idea. It's just, it's a thing, we can't complain about because we're lucky to have jobs, but in the end, if you want to be your own self, you're going to have to do it yourself, because nobody's going to...
Yeah. Well, I don't know who said that, but in order to lead, you must follow. I think there's a lot of grace with following something and having someone above you pointing you in the right direction and taking notes, but I also believe, going your own way eventually.
That's a very good one. I never heard that. In order to leave, you must follow.
I'm sure. Follow. I can't remember who said that.
That's good.
Socrates, maybe? I don't know. Let's just go with that.
When you say there are friends that you look up to who are doing, you're saying creating their own, following their own dreams and ideas, projects, and hopefully eventually making a living through it. Is there someone who comes to mind? Yeah,
well, there's numerous friends. Daniel DeLuvisi is a long, we're not, I would say, super close, but he's an inspiration in the respect that I don't know if he ever really worked for a company per se, but he was always chasing his own vision. He published a book called
LMS, right? That's
Last Man Standing,
Standing, yeah.
LMS, and I think he cut a movie deal with Paramount, and it was one of the first times it was very obvious to a large group of artists that, wow, you can actually make a book and sell it and make a living through this, and maybe make your own movie project. That was unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
And it kind of shifted our overall thinking. Before that, it was just you work in a company as an artist, and that was the roof, and you could maybe become an art director or a director through that process. And I think he just opened up the door. And I'm not saying he was the only one. Another guy I really respect is Dave Raposa.
Oh, yeah. I love his comic books, The Lich Man.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Ash Thorpe is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lich Man comic is great.
Yeah.
But there's numerous artists who've done that and who have also have worked in the visual effects pipeline like I have. I can't remember their names at the top of my head, but they have gone on to make their own short films, and it's really exciting. And I think going forward, I just want to create, and I don't really know what it is. It could be animation, it could be live action, it could be in the form of a graphic novel, a coffee table book. Who knows? I just want to create and retain as much artistic integrity as possible.
And
going
authenticity to yourself, yeah.
forward. Exactly.
It's really awesome that those guys, the names you were mentioned, if you're listening, look them up. The fact that they put out their journey online, I thought it was really important, especially
Yeah.
Daniel Levisi, because he was pretty honest about the failures and successes. He wasn't keeping it back, and I thought it was very important to not have an illusion of what it is. It's super hard, clearly, but it seems like it's worth it. I
can't do that. I'm not very public with.
You're not gonna tell
my trials and tribulations. No, I can talk about it absolutely, but it's great that he shared that. It gave a very a voyeuristic view of his journey through this process. So
I was actually trying to look up information on you online, and you hide it all except
I'm
for
an
the
open
art.
I'm an open book in terms of conversation. I just
Okay,
think when
awesome.
you post things on Facebook, I don't know, it just people can scroll down your timeline and identify you as the words you posted. So, but ask away.
What we were saying before the interview, Facebook is done. We're done with it.
I don't know, Facebook. I don't know what's going on with Facebook. It's just the ads and weird content being shared around. Instagram is my game, and Twitter for now.
It's a good way to go. And if you're if you want to look up Andrew, it's at most likely at Andrew Doma, pretty much on everything.
That's right.
DOMA.
And I think on ArtStation too, if
Yeah.
you want to check that out.
I don't think it's going to be hard to find you.
Yeah.
You're one of the tops. I think it's...
my last name's a little... I don't really use that because it's a little difficult to spell.
We're going to use it. Domachowski. Look up this guy. He's incredible. And so...
Oh, thanks, man. Jesus.
Let's keep going with this. And so, as we're talking about these priorities and you're saying you want to follow your artistic dreams, at what point did you think you knew yourself enough to know that that's what you want?
To chase my own dreams and...
Yeah. When did that... Because I think maybe people have ideas, but the fact that you're making the jump, it takes time to, I would say, mentally mature to get to the point to be actually willing to do it and know what you want.
Well, if I can say it in the least eloquent way possible, I didn't like being told what to do. That's what it really came down to. I just think, no, I think it was super necessary to go through the process of working in a company because I just didn't know a lot. I didn't have the technique. I didn't understand storytelling, composition enough. I learned the most through my peers, my coworkers, and I felt like I'm not anywhere close to being to the level of proficiency I want to be, but I think I'm good enough where I can try things on my own now, and I just felt like, it was time where I could probably figure these things out on my own, and I don't know. I don't really have the answers yet. I just feel like it just felt right. And
but do you think you know yourself and what you want really?
I don't know. Work in progress.
Yeah.
It's I think I know the general gist of what I'm trying to do. Do you want to give me an answer on who I am? Who are you?
Yeah, who are you?
I don't know. I think I'm just a kid. I think I'm just a kid who at 4 would lock himself in a room for 5 hours straight playing with Legos. I'm just that kid. And I don't know if I don't have a dream of world domination with my art. I just want to create things and be happy and hopefully make other people happy. That's really all.
Well said. That sounds like a really good goal. The fact that you didn't let the kid disappear even though he grew up. I know it sounds like super cheesy, but it's kind of true. You can tell the people who can still be silly or make cool art.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be a bit of a kid in you left just for all these fun things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the kid hopefully has been refined a touch.
Yeah.
Not as colorful maybe as it once was. I don't know.
You know, people are gonna say, "But Andrew, you work in movies. Why do you want to leave? It's a dream for everyone."
Well, I hope I always work in movies.
That's always gonna be there then.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's my favorite format in terms of. I mean, movies are art to me. They really are. I mean, they move the social spectrum.
But
so
what about working at ILM? You did leave. What I mean is, it seems like, I'm not there, but generally, whether you go to an animation school, if you're hanging out with an art crowd, ILM is the end goal for a lot of people. It's that studio.
Oh, yeah.
Lucas. So, but you left, and so the question is,
what the hell's wrong with you?
no, not really. But beyond the fact that you're saying, okay, yes, you don't want people to tell you to change things. You may not want to change it because you think a certain direction you had in mind is better. I'm putting words in your mouth, or you don't want people to just, like you said, tell you what to do. It doesn't sound like you're completely satisfied, and so I guess why? Because the dream for a lot of people is ILM.
Yeah, let me just say that ILM was the best job I ever had, for sure. I mean, the people I met there, the amount of diversity with skill set, and just people from all over the world. It was a dream to work there. I really learned a lot. I think just going forward, I saw a ceiling, and the ceiling, which was kind of given to me as a query, like, hey, are you interested in this? Was, hey, do you want to? It was art direction, and so I saw that as a role, and I thought, man, I really can't see myself as an art director in this space. Visual effects is very interesting. It's a lot of beautifying a shot or a set of sequences in film, and I think I'm a lot more interested in the pre-production phase of film. Mm-hmm. And so with ILM being a chiefly visual effects house, it would be focused on the opposite of that. And while we did do a lot of pre-production work, 90% of which will never see the light of day.
Yeah.
It just I knew my heart was attached to the pre-production phase of filmmaking, and going forward, and even now I'm very fortunate to almost exclusively work on that side of things. So
it's awesome.
Yeah,
you made it.
I just want to do what I want.
Just let me do
me.
Yeah. The 90% of work that you're saying that's never going to see the light of day, not even when the project is released, can't show it.
No, I think that. But for instance, it's a little weird. I worked on Deadpool 2.
Oh, nice.
And it's great. Except if they don't make an art book, then I can't show the work, basically.
Really?
Well, because there's two channels, one being the studio, which is Fox, I think, and the other channel being ILM. Mm-hmm. And so I think you can show the work publicly if ILM posts it on their website. But otherwise, and I'm not exaggerating, 90 or 95% of the work I will never be able to show. A lot of it is pitch work. Directors come to our studio, hey, I have a vision. Can your team carry out this vision in 2 weeks? I need a package, and a package ranging anywhere from 10 to 14 images to get investors interested. And it's a very rushed job, which actually those jobs are really rewarding. I love tight deadlines. I love nailing a design in a brief amount of time, and then when the rush is over, you have this kind of surge of serotonin from getting these things done. It's really gratifying, but then it's like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna be able to show that work ever. So there's a part of that's
kind really harsh.
But the other side does get. I do feel fulfilled as a designer. It's a very cool thing having, or rather solving a problem visually, which we talked about before. I mean, yeah, it's a huge boon.
Do you know why? Is there a good reason why these studios wouldn't let artists show that?
I think it's just legality. I think.
NDAs.
If I'm in the studio's shoes, I would think, I don't want the artist to show a version of the final concept that we didn't go with. if that makes sense. Like if I showed a version of, let's say, Cable, which I worked on for Deadpool,
Nice.
and it was, hey, there's Stu. I work with the guy. What's up, buddy?
We're on Hastings Street and we're looking outside. Cool people are stopping by.
But if they posted a version of Cable if I posted a version of Cable that was a far cry away from what they delivered, then maybe fans would be like, why didn't you show that or something? I'm just trying to think in their shoes.
I can see the bad case being where the rough design they didn't go with is way better than the final.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to get, I see, that makes sense, but
I get it and I don't. It's a weird, it's a weird gray area.
I understand that being an artist, I want to see that stuff so much more than just a normal person. Like, and I think it's the best stuff to see.
Yeah.
I forget the guy. Oh man, I don't know the guy's name. Maybe I'll try to look it up on Instagram later. But he worked on the last Star Wars, and he did his designs of characters still look like almost markers, but they're digital.
Glenn Dillon was his name? No.
Maybe that. I'm trying. There's a lot of really good.
Was
guys.
it the previous prequel?
Maybe.
I know the names. You just
I'm
gotta give me a hint.
Oh, I know you know. Maybe I don't know if I have it.
I have a weird vocabulary for useless information. So.
But he posted some.
Dermot Power.
Just keep naming them.
Dermot Power, Ian McKegg. Is this a character guy?
Yeah, he was some characters.
Glenn Dillon.
Must be that guy. Anyways, but where was I going with this? Oh yeah, showing his work, and it was rough, even though it was for a live action movie. The fact that he was still, I don't know, allowed maybe to design in a old school way where it was like it wasn't photo bashed, it was still designed and drawn, and it looked like it was rough and it was a process, and it was the most like it was like the coolest stuff to see. Yeah,
it's especially cool with how it seems in the industry that a lot of art directors want to see that very photorealistic, and we can touch on this because this is a subject I'm very passionate about.
I didn't want to. It's on the list actually. I have questions.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and
let's do it.
So, Star Wars is cool, and I did work on some Star Wars projects, not the last few films that have been seen, but some upcoming ones. Most of the art directors actually prefer traditional style. They want to see that marker, that texture of the canvas, that the stroke of the acrylic brush, which is amazing for artists. I mean, that's what we all want to get toward, where they can read the simplistic design. And the artist I think you're referring to has a very, simplistic approach, but the design's there. It's still valid.
Yeah.
And I think my gripe with a lot of designers, not that they're all bad designers, but a lot of the design is forgiven because the work looks photorealistic, and I think that's a problem. You're gonna. I think there's a lot of designs in film where you can't really. Like design to me, like a good design to me is you can tell a 5-year-old, you can show a 5-year-old a design and then have the 5-year-old draw it on a piece of paper, and then it'll be more or less the design that he or she was describing. So. And I think a lot of the designs nowadays are brown, gray messes of photo bashing, and
you got some texture of fabric in there. Or
something. I don't know, but there's most of the design is great. It's mostly across the board, pretty great. So.
Oh, hello. That's French Hank stepping by outside. Yeah, the reason. Well, I really like the fact that you spoke about that because. Yeah, whether you're, once again, ArtStation, looking online at people's designs of work that has been done for movies, do you think directors, or let's say some directors, are kind of blinded by the shininess of all the perfect textures, and then they
100%.
maybe skip the design?
100%.
I'm sure the good art directors will probably, the ones who've been involved in art, maybe can look past that.
I think as an art director, you want someone who comes from that artistic background, but I gotta say, even sometimes they get fooled by the photorealism of things, because once you have something that looks photorealistic, the atmospheric fog is in there, the lighting is correct, which is so easy to do now with 3D applications, then it tricks your brain into thinking, okay, yeah, it looks like it could be in the film. Why don't we just use this? Then something that's rather as opposed to something that's drawn on paper quickly with a marker, and so.
And from I can see how from the artist side, it's a pretty good way to convince the clients, because if your clients are not art inclined, if you show them a Mike Mignola design, they're gonna be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
we're doing a live action movie, why are you showing me this?
Yeah, but some of the best designs have been like that, though. But
what I'm saying is you need the client to get it, because if they don't, they're gonna shut down all the good designs, because it is like, why is it so simple?
Right. So the path I'm trying to pay for myself is to go photorealistic, but hopefully design well as well. I mean, as well as I can.
Can't wait. What's the last good movie you've seen that had good design?
The last good movie I saw. Let me think. What did I see? Well, I saw The Incredibles too. That's always great design.
How good is that?
And I love their design approach. It's very graphic design oriented. It's very weird. I remember the first time I picked up The Art of Incredibles back in the day, and I was young and naive. I didn't understand what are these swatches of
paper cutouts,
cutouts in fabric, but there's genius behind that.
Oh,
There's a lot of freedom with interpretation when you showcase design like that. And I think when you get too specific, especially with photorealism that we're talking about, then you leave no air for interpretation. It just is what it is. And there's a good side to that and a bad side, but I do really appreciate the far side of design, that paper cutout stuff.
Super.
I'm gonna do that. That's my journey now. You just solidified it. Paper cutouts from now on.
Hey,
tough luck, directors. Deal with it.
That's why you got to make your own thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna tell you what not to do.
Just accept it. God damn it.
You're just gonna make a stop motion paper cut.
Oh
animation?
man. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for stop motion. Who's that? What's that company that did Box Trolls? And they did Kubo and his sword. Oh man, those guys are great.
I wish I knew the name.
Fantastic
Shame
design.
on us, but incredible.
Leica was the company.
Yeah.
What about you? What's the last
So
film you
good.
saw that with good design?
I watched Incredibles yesterday, and that was awesome. And I think I was looking at the credits. It looked like there was only one guy designing characters. I could be wrong, but it looked like name scrolled by and it was one dude. Yeah. Which, if you can do it on a project, probably the best way to go, because then you're going to get such a consistent vision. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess I should also mention what's a good live action movie that had good design. I don't know why this is in my head. I was thinking of Gods of Egypt. And this is I don't know.
I have not watched that.
Well, I mean, no, I don't think a lot of people have.
Okay.
Here's the thing with design. I feel like most design is pretty good in film.
Because the artists are really good. Right?
Because the artists, I think they're mostly pretty good. And it's I think the designs in that film were pretty cool. I don't know if they solved the problem. I don't think I watched the whole movie because the writing was pretty poor.
There you go. That's probably why I didn't watch it.
But that's a sad thing that happens where most of the artists that work on the show, the set designers, the costume designers are pretty proficient.
That's the soul-crushing part.
And no one sees the movie and gets to appreciate it. So that's a really, it is pretty crushing.
Oh, because no matter how good the visuals are, if the story sucks, you're lost everyone.
Or you get a movie with like incredible sound design or a brilliant costume design, but because the movie doesn't have the best writing, it doesn't get nominated for Academy Award. And I think that's a crime. I really do.
They maybe need a different category or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or just rate the artist, forget about the story. I mean, it's too bad that you even have to say that, because story is king. I think it's a quote. I don't remember
who said that.
Pixar, maybe Brad Bird?
George Lucas.
George Lucas
said that. Can you believe it?
Well, there you go.
A lot of people are thinking, what the hell?
That guy said story is king?
Actually, with George Lucas, a lot of people incriminate him with... is that even a word? I'm just throwing out fake words here.
You're smart. Give us big words.
I'm fake smart. I like to think I know words. But
bro science, bro.
Bro science all day. A lot of people fault him for being a poor writer. But I actually think he comes up with good stories. I think the internal structure and the dialogue that, is the internal dialogue and basic flow of his stories doesn't go over well. But I think he actually tells pretty good stories. I think he understands, except the crystal skull thing. That's let's not talk about that.
You're allowed to.
I got to retract my statement now. I'm going to bury my head in the sand.
He didn't say that quote. Brad Bird did.
Yeah.
Let's go with my story.
Oh, Brad Bird's a hero of mine. That guy is incredible.
Yeah. Oh, good use of words. What was I going to say? Oh, live action movies.
No pun intended. Goddamn. I didn't even mean that.
Yeah, the live action movies. I'm trying to remember. I know people hated it. I really enjoyed Prometheus.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I can't believe I was going to mention politics just there, because it seems like there's a thing with movies. You either hate it or love it, and The Last Jedi is a good example of that. Mm-hmm. People either vehemently hated it or they loved it, and I feel like you are allowed to like some aspects of a movie and hate others, and I think Prometheus is a good example of that. Yeah. I don't think everything about the story was great, but goddamn,
design though, and
the art direction was incredible.
Yeah.
What's another movie like that for me? What's that one with Tom Cruise? Everything was white, futuristic sci-fi. Do you remember?
Not Elysium?
Oblivion.
Oblivion. Oh yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
It was directed by the same guy who did Tron.
I forget the guy's name who designed it, but he is just
Oh,
God.
the guy who designed the vehicles?
Yeah, is it
Daniel Simon.
Daniel Simon?
See, man?
But
Useless.
he sculpts things like in
he's
real life.
He's incredible, man.
Okay, if you're listening, look up Daniel Simon.
Yeah, please do.
He is just magic.
One of the premier vehicle designers working today, and he's incredible. Then another guy who worked on Blade Runner.
Yes, that's the one I was going to mention.
Let's just make these guys write down notes.
Yeah, right.
I got some names, yo.
Well, you got a good teacher in here, so he's going to... In fact, actually, yeah, you're a teacher. Or have been for a while.
I guess technically I am a teacher.
We should talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Actually, before we get there, I just realized, like this, we're talking about too many people, and we need to talk about you. So let's give us a little backstory. How do you get into art, and how did that all start? Because I just think of you as guy who makes awesome art.
I don't know. I feel like we all started the same way.
Tell me.
We're drawing from when we were young. We were given an opportunity, and then we just kind of took it. So
where did you study?
So I studied. I'm trying to think because it was a long time ago. I am old, Ilya.
He's not. He's lying.
I graduated high school. I was convinced after seeing a few Pixar films that I wanted to be an animator for Pixar. Pixar was my goal. And so I went to the Art Institute of Vancouver, which was...
Me too.
Oh, man, I want to say some disparaging things.
Dude, come on.
Well, at the time, it was just upsetting because I feel like the administration just didn't give a damn about the students.
It's a business.
And I remember one semester we had 4 different teachers for the same class.
Wow.
And it was just a fucking gong show. If I can
look at you.
Pardon my French.
I survived it.
I did a year of that, and it was a 2-year program, and I thought, no, fuck that. I'm not gonna do that. And then after that, I just took some time off. I think I worked at Starbucks in between, Safeway, some odd jobs.
That's a true artist life.
I did work some 9-to-5 jobs. I've had a few of those actually. I worked at a hotel as a waiter. Worst job I've ever had.
Did you meet any important people? Set you on the right path?
Maybe I did. I don't know.
Just don't know.
Fun story. My very first gig was serving a banquet hall of 500 firemen, and in the middle of a heartbreaking speech of a guy saving his friend who then died, I was carrying a platter of 12 large plates and smashed it right in front of the speech, and everyone looked at me, and I was like, I hate this job. This is so embarrassing.
You should have said that's how emotional you got.
Anyway, back to the Anyway, back to the education, and then after that, I went to Van Arts to further my animation education for 2D film, or 2D animation rather. And then I dropped out. I'm just a dropout, guys. Don't take notes. Don't do what I did.
Maybe do though, because it worked for you. So
I don't know. Well, in a way, I learned 3D software at AI. I learned 2D animation at Van Arts, and then I dropped out, and then I went to Capilano University for a year to study graphic design.
Nice.
It was a 3-year program, but
you also dropped out.
I was doing a lot of packaging and like book wrapping stuff.
Was that the idea program?
And I just wanted to draw. Yeah, it was the idea program. Yeah. And so I was really disheartened after that. And if I could go back, I actually have regrets. I would have either gone to the art, what's that art school in LA that everyone goes to? Jesus.
Is it a private studio or?
No, it's like a
Pasadena College of Art and Design.
What's that school called? Goddamn, Art Center.
Art Center,
right.
Yeah.
Jesus, I would have gone to that.
How expensive is that though?
Pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And for international, not fun.
No,
but you know what? I think it would have been worth it back in the day. Or I would have gone to ACAD. Those of you listening, by the way, I would take the plunge. Or just go to private schools. There's we can talk about it later, but there's a great number of private schools I would highly suggest. But then, and then after that, I was kind of disillusioned. And then my sister actually met a guy who was working as a visual effects supervisor. She was a set dresser, and they struck up a conversation. And she said, "Hey, I have a brother who can kind of draw."
Did you say that? Did you say kind of draw?
Kind of draw. I'm sure she always tries to, I don't know, paint me better than I am. I think I'm like one of those artists. Just like I'm not that good. No, but and then he said for some reason, bring him along. And then we discussed a rate which was low, but I thought I was going to make coffee. They had me modeling this super intricate spaceship.
Wow.
And I thought every day for 2 weeks straight that I was going to get fired. And I was super frustrated. And then one day he just saw me drawing on a napkin this creature that they were trying to figure out. And he said, "You can draw?" And I said, "Yeah. Remember, I showed you my portfolio." And it was the worst portfolio. It was all like abstract art. And he's like, "Why don't you just do that?" And so I did. And then that's how I started my concept art journey. I worked there for 1 more year, and then I thought to myself, wow, I really need to improve, and then went to Concept Design Academy in Pasadena with Kevin Chen, the almighty Kevin Chen, my favorite teacher to this day. He absolutely changed the way I look at design and art. Yeah, I'm even like kind of emotional even thinking about him, because he really took me on it. He really gave me a lot of his time, and I will forever appreciate. And anything I do as a teacher now is because of him. I take a lot of his lessons, and I hopefully try to instill that in students.
How long were you training under him?
I was collectively, I would say 9 months. So there was I took 1 semester, and then I flew back 2 years later, and then did 2 semesters back to back. So
no wonder you're drawn to LA. I guess that's where all the good education happened.
Well, I mean, LA is just, it's sunny all the time, and it's just there's a lot of companies in LA and a lot of schools, so a lot of people are in the same kind of thing. And I don't think while it has a large plethora of visual effects studios, it doesn't have the same kind of energy for concept art as
especially
LA
when
does.
you say you were talking about private schools. My guess is they're not in Vancouver that you're going to recommend.
Yeah, but they should be.
They should be.
And
they definitely.
and they might be, by the way. Just as a little hint
my
going forward.
God.
Dun dun dun.
You heard it here.
You heard it here, folks.
What was that first project that our director, I guess, saw you draw creatures for? What was that project you worked on?
Oh, it was geez, what was that? It was
Was it a TV show?
I think it was Tin Man. It was a Wizard of Oz remake.
Wow. That's not a
like a
bad
TV
first job.
TV movie remake. This was years ago. But yeah, it was fun. And then I worked on Masters of Horror, Masters of Science Fiction. It was we worked on a lot of B movie type stuff, which was actually pretty fun because yeah, it was just really gross creature stuff. Which
And the things
I
you're
enjoyed.
designing, the things you're designing, were they going to be 3D modeled or actually built in real life as physical objects?
3D modeled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the way you design for the real life is even more challenging.
Yeah.
You know, all these constraints.
Well, just that creature in specific, that was going to be 3D model, but some things were prosthetics and otherwise. But
there's got to be a good way to learn because the constraints there, if you do it wrong, it's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
In 3D, you get away with so much.
And 3D is so cheap. It's immense. It's so much cheaper than anything built practically. It's a joke, really.
Well,
we'll just do it in post.
That's why everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
And would you? So when I was looking through your portfolio, I noticed that your earlier work relied very heavily on rendering and painting, where it seems like lately you've been using a lot more line. Maybe it's just a perception of the stuff you've been posting, but I wanted to ask you about the painting specifically and where you acquired that skill. Because when I was looking at your character work, I don't know if it was for a game, but they're quite realistic characters with slight stylization.
Right. Thanks.
Guns, weapons, bloody weapons. I don't know if you remember the work I'm talking about.
Guns, weapons, blood.
Yeah, the rendering, the rendering was beautiful, but it still had. You didn't hide the brushstrokes as much, and I really appreciated that. But it looked like you had a good understanding of color and just painting. Where did that knowledge come from specifically? Would you say it's from your mentor?
I think if you're referring to Kevin Chen, I think what I mostly got from him was the design aspect of creating. But in terms of painting, I think everyone wants to kind of have that painterly feel. I think most people do.
Yeah.
No, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you're a painter.
I like it. A lot
for
of
those
people
of you who
say
don't know, I mean, Ilya is an amazing painter. We should talk about you, goddammit. How did you start your journey?
No, we're gonna talk about you.
Oh, okay.
You can ask one question. You only get one later, but
okay, I'll save it. I'll think of a good one in the back of my head. But my mom had a whole bunch of Norman Rockwell books.
Oh yes.
And so, while I thought some of this stuff was kind of cheesy at times, but I loved the way he painted. I thought it was very articulate, very. There's a lot of character to the way he drew hands, the way he drew folds, and it always stuck with me. And I thought it was quite stylized in itself. And so there was that. And then I discovered painters like Sargent and Sorolla, which we talked about later on, and Ilya Repin, which today is probably my favorite painter.
Oh yeah.
And Ilya Repin, I found out when I was 19 or something. So it was just that. It was just trying to, and then obviously looking at people who do concept art, I just thought, oh, these guys paint like that, and a lot of that was me trying to emulate the way they painted. And
so were you actually copying, especially the masters, or were you just looking at them?
Yeah, I think that was the one thing that helped me a lot with the rendering. Probably the most was studying masters and then doing my own still lifes. That really helped me jump.
That's really cool. It worked, and so. Am I correct to say that you've been working a lot more with line these days than painting?
No.
No?
That's interesting, though. You're just assuming that because of the Instagram stuff.
ArtStation, I guess you could say as well. Although, no, you paint. For example, the work that stands out quite a lot and is the G-Kick Geronimo stuff.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like, beautifully designed, a lot of line work.
Thanks, man.
You've been sketching a lot, I would say, at least. Once again, this is just and that's why it's a skewed perception because I only see what you let me see.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So so I guess you are painting a lot as well.
I counted in my drive on my computer. There's about 75 plus images, like designs I've worked on that I won't show anyone.
Because they're not allowed.
Like I just don't want to.
Why not?
I don't think they represent what I want to show, and so I think it's just that process. I mean, part of it is not letting people see, but it's also just I'm just curious about myself. I know that sounds kind of almost egotistical, but I'm just curious about what makes me tick, and those explorations, those failures, let's call it, help me see where I'm at, and when I get something that resonates with me that I'm willing to show, that's when I show up. But then when it's Instagram, those are sketches. Those are just fun little things that represent me, and they're mostly pencil drawings, and there's a lot of fun with pencil. And
they're the most fun to see, though.
They are, yeah.
I think we talked about that once again, and I keep mentioning art show. I had an art show that was a group show last week or this week, but we also talked about seeing rough work from artists and how much that shows versus a finished piece, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think when you were talking about, what's so funny is that I say a boot. And I didn't know that until I was teaching in LA, and all my students made fun of me constantly.
So Canadian.
About.
It's good.
Their. What was I saying? You were mentioning paint, like what drives them to paint the way I do, and others the way to paint that they do. I think everyone is very drawn to pencils for the same reason they're drawn to the naturalism of the paint stroke. It feels tangible. It feels tactile in a way. Yeah. And I think what I'm very drawn to in terms of art is that naturalistic feeling. We're not really drawn to things that feel synthetic. So yeah, when I paint in terms of concept art, it's really just a lie. It's really we're being not a lie, but it's a I don't know the right word, but we're just trying to
create an illusion
per se, because design is a very weird thing when you think about it in the broad sense. It's a thing that you need for production to, like, the actual art piece doesn't really matter. It's going to help with the creation of the film.
It's a tool to get to the final product.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But you want to help evoke this feeling and selling it with the sense of naturalism that the feeling of paint provides helps sell that mood. If I explain that correctly. You know?
Completely. And I think it's important to not give up on the fact that the final is not going to be seen, but maintain the artistry in it, right? Because you're saying if it's just a tool to get to the final product, well, you could do it just as bare minimum as possible, but you still got to have fun.
Well, at the same time, you have to create a project that's going to excite you and the team you're working for. You want to keep that momentum going.
You do have the responsibility, actually, too. Yeah, you have to inspire to get everyone else down the line to get excited about the project you're working on.
Yeah, and for those listening, I'm sure you felt the same way, that when you finish a design, whether it's 3D or 2D, and people see it on the team, like, whoa, that's so cool. It makes them want to elevate their skill set. And that's the best thing. Because when I do a design, I don't really want people to follow the design outright. I want them to make it better.
Be inspired by it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't interest me when I just showcase a blueprint and people copy it. So.
Yeah. I want to go back to those 75 paintings you talked about.
Let's go back.
How do you know you're your best judge? How do you know if you're the best judge of your own work?
Oh, I'm probably not.
That's what I mean.
I don't know. It just the work is probably fine. It's just
Most likely it's amazing.
I don't know. I would never call my work amazing. How dare you?
That's why I will. You don't have to say it.
Lately, it's been. Sometimes I use different indicators, but I ask myself the question. I asked two questions. One, which I stole from a friend of mine, which is, would I steal this if I saw it? Because sometimes I'll see work. I'm like, I wish I thought of that.
That's a good criteria.
And the other one is, would I hang this in my place? Which is a very interesting thing. I wouldn't hang a lot of concept art, but
there's some though.
Yeah, exactly. But lately, I've been concept art. It is kind of it's an illusion type of thing. So lately, I've been trying to get a lot more into photography and the aesthetic of the old masters in my work. And so I think that kind of stuff has a classicism to it, if I can say that, you know. Whereas if some concept art looks very Hollywood, looks very overly polished. There's rim lights everywhere, and I think that I want to get back to like a simplicity that photography provides. You know,
and this gives a really nice transition to kind of the next subject about how so many people do get inspired by, like, if the only thing you're looking at is concept art for inspiration, it is why, like you're saying, a lot of things end up looking Hollywood, whatever that means, whatever that, you know, whatever sells, which seems to be a bit of a problem actually. And I like the fact that this is a bit of a full circle, where if you started with looking at Sargent and Rockwell when you're young, just trying to get better at art. I mean, just looking at kind of last couple of months of stuff you posted, I think you did like a Herschel study, I think, to Dema.
Oh man, it's such a shame about that guy, because I was trying to find more paintings, but that painting has been on my desktop for about a year, and I think that's got to be. There's the I don't know, it's something with the Cossacks that Repin did. Do you know that one?
Yeah, they're all sitting. It's a big white
It's the best painting ever. That and the one by Herschel are my two favorite paintings.
Okay,
by far.
Everyone, make yourself do yourself a favor. That's what people say. Look up
Adolf Jeremy Herschel, if I can spell that. I don't know how to spell that.
I gotta try to remember the name of the painting, because, damn, and it's is it right now? I'm working on a project, and I'm painting two Greek gods. It's Athena, and I'm painting. And who's the guy?
Dude, I can't wait to see that.
Is it Hermes? Hermes? Is it the god in this?
I think that's Hermes. Yeah. I think he's in the. Isn't he in like the land of the dead?
Yeah, he's the one who I think helps people go get to the land of the dead, among all the other things. So the name of the painting by Herschel is The Souls of Acheron. Heron. Yeah. Oh my God. That ballad.
You know what's interesting about those two paintings, because they are absolutely my two favorite paintings. They without going too in depth about myself, I feel like
go in depth.
The one with the Cossacks that Repin did, and that one, they're very different in a sense, but they completely define what I'm interested in art. One is a very jovial sense of community, a lot of colors, a lot of textures. It's a really beautiful painting, guys. Check it out. And then the other one by Herschel is a very haunting, subtle, kind of stirring image that's very dark and moody. And yeah, these two things are avenues I constantly want to explore with my art going forward.
And you were mentioning, so it's the mood. It's that storytelling and the mood, right?
Yeah. I think before I was almost more concerned about the story. I think when I'm creating imagery, I was so hell-bent on telling the audience, like, hey, this is the story. This is what's happening. Can you see? Can you see the conversation? But I think that's too obvious. I think mood should be the prevailing vehicle for driving it forward. It should be about letting the audience guess what's going on.
And it's that space for interpretation as well, right?
Exactly.
Which is so important.
Rather than slapping them in the face, like...
Man, the thing about this Cossacks painting I don't get is that, like, all these people either had to pose in those beautiful like such lively expressions, which they probably didn't. What most likely happened, this guy is so freaking good that he just, hey, can you stand up for 10 minutes? Okay, now I know.
Well, I mean, he has
years and years of hard work.
He has an immense sense of balance. I mean, to pull that off. I mean, for you guys, if anyone's looking at that, to pull off all those textures, all those values jumping around, and still have a main focal point and have it be very clear. That's, man. They're no joke.
Those are some good paintings. All right.
You're Russian, are you not?
I am from Kazakhstan.
Okay, cool.
And are you Croatian?
Yeah, my mother is Croatian. My dad's Polish.
Oh, cool.
I'm actually going to be going to Russia, I think in September or October, and I'll be going to the St. Petersburg
Sweet.
Museum to check out rep. And
You're gonna.
oh
it's
man, I
gonna
can't
be
wait.
Unbelievable. I got it. Well, I haven't been there. I haven't seen those paintings, so I definitely have to go. I think next summer is.
Come,
my
dude.
plan.
Let's
Yeah?
go together,
Okay,
man.
let's
That'd be
go.
great.
That would be really fun. Actually, I'm going with my family. Well, we'll see. We can talk about this after.
Let's talk about it. Let's
We'll
talk about
figure it out.
after.
And
Let's tell the audience exact dates, exact
yeah.
hotels.
You can meet us in the airport. Hey, and so this is another good tangent. So I think one of my favorite pieces by you recently, at least of what you posted, was that Songs of the Fallen painting,
Which was inspired by that painting.
which nice and the fact that you wrote, I think your little caption was like a song of my people. I don't remember what you wrote, but here's an opportunity where you took your culture and you brought it into art, design, and
Yeah.
into your painting. And I think that's part of the reason why I loved it so much, is because now you brought yourself into it.
Yeah.
Even more so, I guess.
I think that one more than most I brought into. There's a little story with that.
Mhm.
I used to be part of a group called Katerina Stepinac, and it was a folk music group where I would play a tiny instrument, not unlike the mandolin. That was called the tamburica,
Mhm.
and there was 4 or 5 different instruments, and people would be singing during, and it was a very folk style music playing, and that was a huge part of my life, 6-7 years when I was a kid. And I went to Croatia 2 years ago for I was given a talk at IFCC,
Mhm.
and it was a great time, an opportunity to hang out with friends I hadn't seen in a long time. I was sharing a house with Marco Nellor, Dave Levisi, Hunter Schultz. I love these guys.
Rock stars.
Yeah, and they're great people. And somehow I was boxing at the time. I was getting ready for a fight, and someone came to the gym with mumps, and I contracted it. And I was like patient number 48 or something like that, and I actually boarded a flight to Croatia, not knowing what's going on.
Oof.
And then when I got there, I told the guys, I think I have mumps, and then I had to isolate myself in a hotel room by myself for 7 days, and I was like a chipmunk. I don't know if you guys like those old photographs with people with the napkins around their head tied with the knot at the top. That's what it was pretty much like. It sucked. I couldn't. It was extremely contagious. And I was very upset, just locked in my hotel room, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, people were just talking outside drunkenly, laughing. And then all of a sudden, I look outside my hotel window, and there's these 2 guys just singing this song. And it kind of sounded familiar, something I heard from when I was a kid. And then across the court, 3 more girls joined them, and they started singing in harmony the song. And I'm, holy crap. And then 3 more guys showed, and then another 2, and then by the end of it, there was at least 14 people singing the song that they all knew. And it's gonna sound really weird, but I started crying because I was so isolated. I felt so alone.
Mhm.
And then in this moment, I felt so connected to these people that I used to spend many summers in Croatia when I was a kid, and I just felt very connected to these people all of a sudden, and it just kind of stirred this moment of just a community with song. And I think song is a thing that brings people together, and so that was the inspiration for that song. And Warriors are badass, so I made them Warriors.
Of course. But do you think have you done any pieces before that were tied to your culture?
Yeah, I have a few that are on my hard drive, and yeah, I have some stories that I've written, and yeah, I have a few of that.
I only ask, and I think why I like it is because I don't know if you follow Nicolas Uribe. I think Uribe.
No, I don't know.
He's a Colombian painter. He has a Kickstarter going right now.
Okay.
I'm an incredible painter, but he was actually he was in a podcast called Your Creative Push. Look it up. I really like that interview. And so he was saying about, I think it was something like a conversation about style or being yourself, and the point he was making is that what makes a painting or a piece of artwork special by you is the fact that when you're trying to be yourself, and what you're doing is you're drawing from your own experiences, from your own life. So
right.
To make a successful and unique painting, you have to bring something into it what's actually part of you. Instead of trying to make a badass orc because he looks badass orc and Blizzard did it, you have to do something that what kind of life have you lived is what makes you special,
Yeah.
among all the other things. And so when you bring in something from yourself, is when it makes it really unique. And I really love what he was saying, and I feel like I heard that echoed by a lot of artists, and I'm trying to follow that more. But so when I saw the painting and the little blurb you wrote, and the fact that it's part of your culture, it felt so authentic. I want to see more, and I guess maybe the question is, do you feel responsibility to talk about where you come from? Do you feel like what's your, I guess maybe your thoughts on that?
Well, let me just say it before I expand on that. I feel like you do the same with your work. I feel like when I see your work, I feel very connected to you, and without you saying much about it, I feel like it's very refreshing seeing your heart, if I can say that. And in a way, I kind of feel like we're brothers. We kind of come from a similar place, and I kind of like, even when I saw that painting of your dog, which it's a sad story, but I felt very connected to that, and much because it happened to me, but I felt the sensitivity in your work. And so if I'm talking about my work, I feel like all I want to do going forward is just be a little bit more investigative about myself. And I'm not saying I'm inherently interesting. I'm just saying that's where art should come from.
But that's what makes you interesting, is the fact that it's you. Like, you are you, and that's that's what I want to know. Like,
hopefully I'm interesting enough. I mean, that's the hope. I mean, if you're not, then
yes,
but I think that should be the main thing that people should pull their inspirations from. And it doesn't always have to be that. Sometimes it can just be you watch a movie about robots and you want to make a movie about a painting about that, and that's enough. But I feel like sometimes or rather the times I get most connected to people's work is when I can feel themselves. I can feel their passion, their heart. And I do feel that with your work. I want to say that.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
And so, I think going forward, there's a funny thing with concept art and film where you're almost, not everyone's like this, but I felt like I was removed from my personal interests, my personal expression, because you're just trying to fulfill the design wishes of an art director. And so now that I'm on my own, I have an opportunity to fully tell my story or someone else's story, and just kind of be investigative about myself and others and look around.
So having said that, this must be the biggest reason why people, we started talking about why some people get tired of working at a job, and it must be that. It's just not being able to be you so much through your art, right?
Yeah. I feel like, and I want to say this because I think it's an important point, I think that boy that fell in love with Jurassic Park and just wanted to work with his friends to create something special. I think there's a lot of truth in that still, but there's another avenue, and that avenue doesn't have to be just that. You don't have to work just in a company. You can, with technology being so available, software being so available, you can create your own stories. There's avenues for that. There's possibility for that, for you to be even more successful than you can have ever imagined. And it's a great time to be an artist. We're very lucky at this time.
Definitely. Yeah. But about your culture, would you want to represent it more? Do you feel like you have to?
That's the thing, is that I got to be honest with myself. I feel like more of a Canadian than I do a Croatian.
That's exactly how I feel too.
Yeah. So there's a bit. I don't want to feel like a fraud, but every time I go back to Croatia, I feel a huge surge of energy, and I feel like, that goes for anyone. Anytime you express your culture, it's always a great thing. It can always be a unique and interesting thing. It's just whatever makes you tick, and I think that makes me tick. And I think going forward, I do want to represent it a little bit more, and hopefully I can show that with my art going forward.
Yeah, and so you're talking about also writing stories. I really excited to how that balance of art and story, kind of how that goes forward.
Yeah.
How long have you been writing?
It's not all the time, but for the last part of 2 years, I've been working on a few scripts, and they're challenging. I think it's so easy comparatively creating art and not having to worry about structure or does this character have his right moment? Are we building this character up enough? Writers, it's a really complicated job, and so I'm trying to read as much as possible, and I don't want to speak on that too much because I really don't classify myself as a writer. I haven't been through the ringer, but I will say it's challenging and extremely rewarding.
Mm-hmm. It's very, but kind of how you said that as an artist you got into it is to tell stories. It's such an important part of being an artist, and I would say it's probably a skill that's lacking from a lot of us, just because being a good writer is another like whole life. To become a really good writer is, you know,
Right.
take you a lifetime, just like it would take you a lifetime to become a really good artist. So if you ignore one and focus on the other, it's not going to happen quickly. And like
Right.
you saying how hard it is, it's so true.
Yeah.
I mentioned, I think I mentioned it actually on the podcast before, but how I think it was Neil Gaiman saying how artists took, you know, their whole lifetimes to get very good at drawing, and then they expect to become a good writer in a day. And it's like,
it's silly. It's silly. And
yeah.
it's another thing because you can actually, if you're a concept artist and you're quite capable, you can sell a story without much writing because the visuals carry it over.
And you let people also bring in their story into the image. That's the beauty of it, where you're not spoon feeding. Like, you're leaving room for interpretation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there was one guy who created a book. I don't know if he was a Swedish-Danish guy. He created a book of landscapes with a sci-fi kind of twist to them.
Oh, yeah, I
sort
know
of pastoral imagery with. But
try to look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he sold the rights, and I think I don't know if he wrote it, but
I want to see that world. Whatever.
Yeah, Sandberg, I think is his last name, if I'm not mistaken. Simon Sandberg. Yeah, there you go.
This guy's Simon.
Damn, I'm good with names.
Are you though? It's Stalingrad.
Oh, was I wrong?
I think you may have been.
Okay,
no,
thank
but you're
God.
still good with names.
All right, good. I don't want to.
Seeing those paintings, like, you want to know more about the world.
Yeah.
And I would say that's a successful piece of art then, if it makes you want to know more.
I mean, if you're a studio, if you're in the mindset of you want to sell something, that's a very attractive thing to have the rights to, because the world is your oyster, essentially. You can make whatever representation of that world you want, attach whatever writers. I think he might have some writing responsibilities with that, but it's very exciting. The fact that he might have been just illustrating at home, and now he can really make some momentum with this, and I'm so excited. I hope it gets.
It was
really
an
far.
impressive amount of paintings. It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot, and really like good. And talk about brushwork. When you zoom in, it's got that impressionism. It's got a bit of like almost like chalk or something.
I was astounded to learn that it was all digital.
Yeah.
If it is, I hope I'm.
Yeah.
But it looks like acrylic or gouache.
And you look at that art, and you can tell the guy was classically trained or some sort. You know, there's something about like studying, as you mentioned before, studying either the masters or how color works. But he had all the points checked off. It was like he had everything. Yeah.
There was
Look it up. Simon Stalinghag.
I took a class in LA with June An. If you guys don't know who this guy is, JOONAHN. That's his name, and he's an amazing artist. He works at if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Riot Games. But he told me there's 3 pillars of art that you need to create a successful piece, and one of the side is technical. That means it needs to be technically proficient. The painting needs to be nice. Okay, it needs to look. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank now. One of the other sides is the creativity. I can't remember the other side. The technical, okay, the lighting, it needs to be good.
It's okay if you don't remember.
But the other side that people don't get is that creativity. Like, most people can make a nice thing, piece of art look nice, but as far as bringing in some originality, a breath of fresh air, the creativity, that's really hard. And I think that's what he did. You bring in that element where it checks all the boxes. It looks great. The mood's there, but
you got story and creativity. I wonder if story part of it, but yeah.
Can't believe I forgot the last pillar.
It's okay.
I'll get back.
Well, wait. You can you can write me a message. I'll post it. What would you say? What was the thing you've been struggling with the most lately?
I am in a forever struggle with design. Always. I don't think I think I'll always feel like I'll be pretty good at design, but it's a thing that I'll always struggle with. And drawing and design. I think painting is, it's going to sound weird, but it's almost a means to an end. I don't think it's as inherently important as design, in the sense that you look at Sid Mead. He's not really focused on loose edges or getting a nice natural feel. Everything about the way he presents work is chiefly focus on design, and I love looking at his work because it's so simplistic but so beautiful at the same time. And so that's really what I always want to focus on. I always want to struggle with that. I never want to feel like competent with that in a way.
And design, it just sounds like so much thinking. I think the reason why it is so hard is on top of everything else that makes a good image, you have to be just thinking about the purpose, the function, the visual language, and so many things on top of just, like you're saying, making a cool image. But
I don't want this to be the question, by the way, but what's the thing that you that you struggle with?
In art, I'll say, well, in life is just like time balance and having enough time for everything. But in art,
so you're saying you're a brilliant designer? I get it. Damn you!
What are you saying? What?
You're saying you're a brilliant designer?
No,
okay.
Not even. No. In art,
no,
I think it's knowing what to focus on. I like a lot of types of art, and I think so. I want to try to make cool illustrations. So I try to make cool designs, and I don't know if that split focus helps, and so I asked a lot of artists the question of if you know yourself, and I asked you that already.
Yeah.
Because I think that helps to know what to focus on.
Right.
And at this point, I don't know if I can, pull it off, but trying to do a little bit of both. And I'm trying not to stretch myself too much. I think eventually it has to be narrowed down, but
yeah. Well, we're similar in the respect that we both work as designers, respectively in our own fields. You with animation more centric, and on the side you're pursuing your own personal journey. So
I like to think that a good sense, for example, as you're mentioning, a good sense of design can be translated in any piece of art or through any painting. Even if you, for example, you look at that Repin painting, and although he's working with existing designs, but I think design encompasses great composition, the way your eye moves around the image, which is that's the kind of visual design of the actual visual elements. I know what you're talking about is also if you're creating a new vehicle or character, and if you want to tell a story about a character through a little rip on their clothes, how do you show their story through their face? That's beyond the fact that, hey, they're riding this motorcycle and it's been built in 2020 or whatever.
That sense of history.
And I think that's part of design, but I would try to say, and I think I like to think, and I hope so, that these skills can be practiced and trained through any medium as long as you're conscious of it. And so actually, maybe a better answer to your question is, I find it very hard to always be conscious of learning and thinking when creating art. I think it's very easy to just turn off and make an image.
Oh, I wish I could
and
do
it's
that.
So challenging.
I think my problem is that I think too much. These days
it's
I've
a
been.
Good problem.
I don't know if it's the best problem. The good thing is that I'm thinking a lot about art. The bad thing is that I'm thinking a lot about art. It's like it's a double-edged sword, because you don't want to let the meditation about what you're trying to create cripple you from creating the art. And so I think I'm getting better at that. Writing really helps. My design process has been a lot smoother ever since I started writing exactly my intention of what I want to design and how I want the person seeing this to feel. And I think emotion is something I wasn't really considering in art for a long time. It was more just, can I make this look badass?
Why do you think?
I don't know. I think I was not woke. I just was not woke. No, I don't know. It's I think inherently I always, like, no one wants to make art that doesn't elicit an emotion, but I think it wasn't until the last few years that I really understood how important the role mood plays when you're viewing art. There's a lot of abstraction that I'm only recently discovering about art. I think a lot of time was spent on the technicality of it. Can I draw correctly? Can I light correctly?
That's what I was going to say. Those skills have to come first, right?
Yeah. And I kind of wish I went... When I was at Capilano University, we used to make fun of the Emily Carr students because they used to have weird projects, and they were completely, I don't know. I don't want to disparage anything they were doing, but let's just say they were very conceptual. And we were doing very technical things. We were learning color swatches and how to draw proficiently. But on the flip side, I wish I I learned like that more conceptually to think more. I think a lot of people want to get into this field without the why. They just see an artist that they admire. Oh, I want to be that good, but they're not really sure of their intentions of art. They're not really sure of what they're trying to say with art. They're not sure of where it's going to lead them down the road. And I think it's not necessarily a regret, but it's a thing that had I gone back, I think I would have instilled that a lot more in my process.
It just means you have to learn it now.
Yeah,
probably harder. Right?
Which is it's not necessarily harder. It's actually kind of exciting.
It's going to take a long time no matter what, though, whether you're younger and get to do that.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to that really knowing yourself and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
I also wonder if that's another reason why artists get burnt out, because naturally when you're younger, you don't realize, you don't have time to think about why it's like you mentioned, you want to be as cool as whatever this guy, but you haven't talked to that guy, and that guy hasn't told you, kind of like you have today, that it's not all about just making this images for someone else. In fact, it's more about you. Like, what is you? And I think Craig Mullins has been speaking quite a lot about that lately, and I think it's really important for everyone to hear the god of concept art.
He is the god.
Speaking about, I don't know, just
This 7-year-old guy is more jacked than I am. Look at him. Jesus Christ.
We need a camera in
There's
here.
so many guys like that.
People walking by outside. Once again, it's a...
Sorry,
if you had a sketchbook right now, try that guy.
I apologize for interrupting.
No. That guy looked like a superhero.
He did. You had a good point about that.
We're talking about being you, or why, knowing why, and then like the conceptual side of why, which is emotion and mood as well. Yeah,
the same things that drive Craig Mullins is not going to drive anyone else. And then another one of my favorite designers working today is Aaron Beck. If you guys don't know who he is, please check him out.
Aaron
Beck. Brilliant designer, a brilliant robotic weapons designer. You can really do it all. But I see a lot of people emulating him or trying to design like him. To myself, I mean, even myself in certain areas, I look at what he does and, man, I wish I could design like him. But here's the thing with Aaron Beck is that he has an absolute adoration for vehicles. I mean, the guy works on cars all the time. He understands actual cars. He understands actual machinery. And another thing that people wouldn't really understand or notice about his work is that he's obsessed with nature, obsessed with spiders and insects. And you see that a lot in his work. And a lot of people try to replicate his style, but they don't have that same love. It's not enough to just be in love with cars. You need something else. You need that special sauce. And he's got that special sauce because it's him. He's trying to he knows he's in love with the nature. He goes really deep in that world, and you see it in his art. And I feel like everyone has that special sauce. You just got to find out what that is.
And that's the best kind of concept art, I think, when the people who actually know that stuff get to make it. Yeah. Where when there's you see inside the car and actually makes sense. Yeah. And you may not know it, but it'll feel right. It'll feel like, oh, this makes sense. This is.
Well, yeah, like tactile. Like one of the things I can't stand when I look at art, especially students' work. And I don't want to say can't stand because this is a developing thing. You fucks! How could you fail me? No.
You understand why, but yes, you can't stand.
No, but when they're doing robotic designs, but it doesn't look functional or tactile. I mean, we as human beings, we love things that look tactile. There was a great interview done about Halo. When Halo was designing the two vehicles, the Jeep. I can't remember. Did you ever play that game, Halo?
Played a couple of versions. I know there's many now.
There's two vehicles. There's basically a vehicle that is much like a Jeep, and then an alien spaceship that floats. It's very fast and speedy, maneuverable. And they thought that, oh, everyone's gonna love this purple badass spaceship because it's maneuverable, but everyone kind of what's the word? Kind of went toward the Jeep because it felt comfortable, and they were familiar with the workings of it. That goes along with design today. It's the same reason why Blade Runner looks the way it does, that very tactile, dirty feeling. Star Wars is the same way. We want things to look like it's been lived in, worn in, and there's a human element to that.
They're tied to real life, right?
Exactly, and that's what Aaron Beck does for me. That's what Sid Mead does with his work, as clean as it is. So that's one area. That's one pillar of the artistic spectrum. But the other thing is that special sauce, which is that nature thing, and
which is just him being
which is him just being him.
Him loving spiders and all that. Like
he's just being him and him going hard.
Yeah.
What's that line by Childish Gambino? Don't be mad because I'm doing me better than you doing you. That's kind of what. I don't want to sound like I'm a hip hop aficionado, but
it was a very good album though.
Yeah, it was a good one. But that's true. I mean, I think everyone should feel like that. Everyone should feel like they're doing the best version of themselves, and that only comes with time or a very strong sense of a personal identity.
Mm-hmm. And maybe looking inward more than outward.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of trend. Yeah.
More inward than outward, you're saying? Yeah. Which is a challenging thing, especially when you look at the broad spectrum of art, and it's overwhelming.
Amazing art, like a really, really good art that you want to be like everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's,
I get crushed all the time. I get crushed by guys who are 21, and I'm like, you just learned Photoshop and you're painting? You son of a bitch. But
know, right?
It's difficult to just lock yourself up in a cabin and just want to create art.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the brainstorm and the traveling and the teaching.
Sure.
I think it's really cool, or it seemed like a really
Let's
cool
talk about the drive to LA where I almost died on the highway.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't know about that. Let's hear about that.
I haven't told anyone this. I actually spun on the road. I did this twice. Once in Vancouver where I nearly totaled my car, and then once on the highway in Oregon where I completely did a 360 on the highway. Almost got clipped by a semi-truck right behind me.
Man.
Oh my God.
You've
Slight
been
rain on the
chance.
road. I drive an obnoxious sports car, so it's bound to happen. But sorry. Go on with your.
No. So tell me about the journey of leaving your job, going to teach in LA.
Right.
What was it like to? I mean, maybe about that, and also, I don't know if you've taught before, but actually you've done some workshops. But what have you learned from being a teacher?
Yeah. Well, let me just start with the journey. I mean, full disclosure, I was extremely nervous to be on my own. I thought, what am I without this identity of being part of this elite team of people, ILM? I thought that was part of my identity. In a weird way. It sounds so weird to say now because I'm not attached to it at all.
But I completely understand, and I think a lot of people feel that. It's a prestige, right?
Yeah, but I couldn't be happier at the state of my life now that I'm free of the shackles of this oppressive... No, I'm kidding.
Now you're just you.
Now I'm just me and whatever I want to make of that. And a good friend of mine, John Park, offered me a position to teach one of the semesters, and we had been talking about it for the better part of a year and a half, and we found the right time, and I gave my company 2 months' notice, and then for the first part, I was actually flying back and forth to LA for 5 weekends in a row. If you can imagine all those things, all those times at LAX, and it was actually my first time teaching in a physical classroom setting. I've done 2 classes online, and I've done a whole slew of mentoring just individually through students online. I'm actually currently doing that right now. But yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed discussion. I think that's the kind of way I like teaching, is just discussing things. Like when I look at students' work, I'm not trying to instill my personal views of how I see the world or design. I'm trying to get out of them what they want to do, how they want to problem solve, and then just kind of guide them on that path. Sometimes they don't really have... sometimes they don't really understand design in a sense, and design's hard to teach, and you can guide them away or guide them in a certain way or give them hints. That guy's carrying a small boat. You know those boats you carry in a bottle? He's carrying that. The guy's really weird.
Biking in one hand, he's holding a boat.
We're in East Vancouver. There's a whole bunch of interesting characters here.
Yeah, come with a sketchbook and enjoy.
My favorite thing, I used to go to this cafe next door. What's it called? Acme Cafe. Yeah. I used to spend hours just drawing people. This
is the place.
We have the most interesting characters. It's
if you're outside of Vancouver, when you do come here, hang out on these tastings.
Yeah, but
or don't.
Or for sure don't.
I just talked to a lady before I got here, and her bike was stolen. So maybe don't leave your bike out. But
I think everyone who's lived here who's owned a bike has got their bike stolen.
Here's your knowledge about Vancouver for the day. Enjoy. Now back to the teaching story. So getting the design out of students. Sometimes they don't know it.
Man, it's a really hard thing. It's hard to teach design. some people say you either have it or you don't. I think it's just a matter of opening up a channel of the way they view the world that maybe they didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was hopefully successful in that. And there's a huge gift you get as a teacher when you can help elevate a student. I love seeing people's growth. I love seeing hungry people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care much for
So
people.
inspiring.
I don't really care for your skill level. I care how bad you want it, how hungry you are. And if you're hungry, oh boy, I'm gonna ride on you hard and make sure you get to the level you want to get to. And I spend a lot of my free time on Facebook, and sometimes I'd Skype with students off hours because I was invested in them.
Excited.
I was very excited about them being excited. It's an energy thing, you know. Just like this conversation, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about your
Me
journey.
as well. Thanks.
And it's just I want to keep that momentum going as much as possible.
And I think this is a good point about how you should try to surround yourself with people who will continue getting you excited even when you're out of school.
Yeah.
Because I feel like being in school or classes has such a magical feeling of everyone, like you said, or maybe not everyone, but some people being so hungry and you want to stick with them.
Yeah.
But once you're out, you have to find a way of having people around you who just work so hard, they scare you and inspire you at the same time.
Scare you is a good word,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
That feeling, like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
like that. I
So
love
important.
slight competition is great in the
Yeah.
workplace.
Yeah.
I've elevated my skill the most from that. I
Mm.
think it's healthy.
What have you learned from teaching? Is there anything you got out of it for yourself?
Yeah, I think teaching inherently you're constantly reminded of things that that should be at the back of your head all the time when you're designing. But when you're explaining the design process and trying to design in front of people is one of the most challenging things you can do, because you're letting them inside your head. But what I decided to do, because it's very nerve-wracking, you don't want to fail in front of your students. I would just tell them when I'm failing.
Yeah.
I would just say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. These are the kind of shapes I want. This is the way I want people to feel. But right now it's not working. Here's where I'm trying to go. And I would just kind of guide them through that process and tell them that, hey, it's okay if you fail. That's part. I hope you guys fail 100 times more than you succeed. Just keep on going. And I think them seeing me fail, hopefully not all the time, but sometimes, was helpful for their process.
That's probably one of those misconceptions about artists in general.
Yeah.
Well, just all artists and probably very good ones as well. It's just there's tons of failure in there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop happening. Maybe you have better tools of how to avoid failure or quickly get through it, but it's there. It's going to be there, and it's probably good, like you said, that it is there.
There was one summer I was doing the Grouse Grind. For those of you who aren't in Vancouver, Grouse Grind is a series of endless steps in a mountain. I think it's like 2,000 something steps, or it's a ridiculous amount.
Tall one, yeah.
Most people can do it in an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I was doing it every day. And there's this one guy who was 65 who was just crushing me. And I was dying. 2,800 feet.
Yeah.
Wow, not bad. I completely pulled that out of my ass.
Wow.
And I asked him, hey, what's your secret? And I'm like, does it get any better? He's like, no, it never gets easier. You just get better at doing it. You get better at dealing with the pain. And I think that's true for most disciplines, especially art. You just get better at kind of pushing down your anxiety and your worries. You just become, a more, I guess, a stronger person.
Mm-hmm. And has boxing and Muay Thai and all the fight and martial arts you use, have they benefited your art?
It's kind of why I do them. It's kind of like getting punched in the face, or like my leg is dying right now. Someone kicked me really. You wouldn't think it's connected, but it really is. It just obviously, I still get hit. I still get hurt all the time. But my emotions that are present when I'm fighting are a lot more subdued. I would say I'm a lot more in control of them. Mm-hmm. And it's just a good reminder. It's a very live reminder that of how much your emotions are into play. When you're designing and you're at your desk and it's just you and your computer, it's not really always easy to look at your emotions and how it's affecting your work.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see your performance and you're getting punched in the face repeatedly, you think part of it is because, hey, you're thinking too much or something else is at play. So it's I use those constant back and forth activities to keep myself in check, keep myself centered. And everyone has their own thing. Some people do yoga or cycling, running. Exercise is a brilliant thing to just free your mind and be present to the moment.
That's awesome. And just to get away from your computer. Just go.
Yeah, and I spend way too much time on the computer. I don't know. I should be, even with Muay Thai, it's funny. I should probably be going outside more, especially in Vancouver.
Especially in the summer.
I'll probably go on a hike today.
Good man.
Yeah.
And then, and so...
You do boxing too, don't you?
No.
No? I saw you with some wraps
should.
sometimes.
Wraps are from just destroyed hands.
Oh, okay.
Just like lax ligaments. It's probably part of the reason why when I did try certain martial arts is just, after a couple of weeks, just the hands start failing a little bit, or which, the problem is then I can't work, and that means you're not making money, and then you're done.
Yeah, I actually think I'm developing tendonitis right now.
Oof.
So
See,
I got to go to physio and get that checked out. Yeah.
These two things are money makers, and they feed you. So
yeah,
and they give you actually purpose in life as well.
I won't say who, but there's a friend of mine who has essentially lost the ability of his hands, and so he can no longer work in this field. And you really got to take care of your hands. And it was a very strong reminder that I got to take better care. Stretching.
Mortals. Yeah, I used to play music, and I stopped for that reason. It's just too much stress.
What'd you play?
I played drums.
Oh, cool.
8 years. 7
Yeah,
years.
I imagine with that's.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of stress.
That's gonna wear and tear on your wrist,
and
right?
I was a dummy because I also bought a djembe, like the hand drum, and
oh yeah,
that's even worse.
Did you ever go to the drum circles? And
I should have. I did. I should have. Yeah.
Those were fun. I went there last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun, man.
Vancouver in the summer is a beautiful place.
It is pretty great.
Yeah. Let me try to think. I was going to ask you something. Oh yeah. So you're saying you're spending too much time in front of a computer. Talk a little bit about the freelance life and what kind of shift that has been.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah. If I didn't think I had a problem before, I'm spending way more time in front of the computer.
Which is ironic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because
yeah.
Well, it's good and it's bad. I feel like with freelance, I really appreciate taking time off during the day. Like I'll get the brief for an assignment, and I don't feel the pressure to always be at my desk. Unbeknownst to my client, I'm not always working. Sorry to.
I understand.
I go for a coffee break, and I'll usually take notes at a shop, and then when I work, I really hunker down and work. But the thing is that I feel like I'm spending way more time in front of the computer because I feel. At ILM, I would work the shift and I would come home and I'd feel a little exhausted. Spending that much time in front of the screen, you just wouldn't feel fulfilled. But because I'm managing my time correctly with my freelance work and I'm using my time more effectively, I have a lot more time for personal projects. And as you probably know, those personal projects eat away at your time a lot, which I never actually mind. But sorry, am I speaking too close?
No, you're doing good. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really mind. It's more time, but it's more time for myself, and I'm doing doing my own creative things.
Which is so you're saying because you're not working from home, there's just more opportunity to be working your own stuff at the same time.
Yeah, and I gotta say I have a very unhealthy obsession now, because there's something about the There's nothing bad about working in a company, but just for me personally, there's something about. I found the monotony to going into an office every day. There was a safety at the paycheck. There was just a safety, and I realized about myself that when I feel safe, I'm not pushing myself enough. And so, yeah, when I go home, I feel like a lot more vigor in what I'm doing. And so every morning when I wake up, I feel like a lot of. I thought it was going to be the opposite. Hey, what's up? Some random person waving at us. Right? I thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought I was going to be more lackadaisical and just sleeping until noon, but it's been the opposite. I'm a lot more, yeah.
That's good to know that you're so regimented, though. It's important.
Oh, no, I'm not regimented. Like,
really?
I don't have I'm not waking up at 5 a.m. on the dot. It's all over the place, but.
But you're making work.
But I'm making work.
What about being worried for the next project, or are you kind of established enough to have work coming in and you're not scared about that?
I have no idea why. The second I quit, I got like an overflowing in my inbox for work.
Did people know?
I have no I didn't tell anyone. Wow. I didn't publicize it, and it's been like that every week.
Life
I
works
have
in a
no
beautiful
idea
way.
why. I think I'm not one of those guys that think everything happens for a reason, but everything happens for a reason.
Sometimes it does.
I don't know. It's I've been very fortunate, and it's also given me the platform to deny work and kind of look, because at ILM, any job that they give me, I have to do. But now when I get presented an opportunity, I can tell them, hey, sorry, no, that's not really what I'm interested in doing. And that's really weird. And sometimes I won't make money, but that's totally fine. It's not about...
Yeah, it's like you said, but then you get to do the projects that you really like.
Yeah. And I can really get invested on it. There's a project now where I can't really talk about it, but I'm really, really excited about it, and I can give it my full attention, and that's exciting. And then it's brutal. Like the hours are very demanding, but when I'm done, I got to take some time for myself and refresh, and yeah, it's just,
which is very liberating. Yeah,
totally liberating. Yeah,
really cool. So freelance is now for you the way to go from
yeah,
now on. And
for now. How about for you? Do you ever feel like doing personal endeavors and branching out and doing your own thing? I mean, I know you have an interest in storytelling as well, so
I would like to. There's too much to learn, but I would really enjoy that. And I think, to your point about working for a studio, I would love to. I really like, this is something we talked about at the art show, I really like the entertainment industry, and I think because it does involve design a lot more than my personal artwork does.
Yeah.
And design is such a challenging thing. It's so challenging, and it takes so much thinking that I appreciate and enjoy that challenge. So I would not want to just jump into fine art and forget about it, because I actually think I would become a worse artist.
You think so?
Because I feel like in fine art there's less rules, and in fact the people who are more successful have less of the technical rules within their art. When you look at the artwork being sold in the world for the most money, it's the artwork that, everyone's going to hate me for this, but it's artwork that does not require as much skill. It maybe has a lot more conceptual thought, which that, as we've discussed, it takes a lot of work. But I think
you're talking about the blue paint on the canvas,
something like that.
Like
all that. It can be
with the red square.
I think those things are a joke for a reason, because you can kind of tell it's where you're talking about earlier about if a kid looked at a painting, and I don't know, maybe I'll have to formulate my thoughts about that. I don't want to
if they can easily describe it. You're saying maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good analogy, but it just what I'm saying, if I only did fine art, I think, and if at a certain point I started relying on my art to make money, I don't know what I would do, and I don't know if I would make the wrong decisions. So right now it's really nice to be able to make a living through entertainment world, which I love, and I love the rules. I'm very fortunate to work with a really good group of people. So
yeah, and it probably still excites you.
Yeah, it definitely does. And at the near future, I'm hoping that I can work, maybe 3 days a week. And so we'll see.
I mean, it's a new age. Back in the day when in the time of the old masters, they were only painting. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of opportunity to do. You can really be an editor. You can be a 3D artist. You can be a painter. You can be an animator. All within the same lifespan. And so you can do all those things. It's I personally don't want to limit myself, and I think it's cool that you want to do more than one thing too, and it's
Thanks.
Why not?
It'll be fun. I think summers and murals are just a perfect combination.
Oh man,
if I can do one or two of those a summer, that'll be fun.
Your murals are fucking breathtaking, dude.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
You're so goddamn good. I don't think I could do that, man.
I can tell you right now, 100%, you can do it. Awesome, because you have the skills of drawing. Like, I feel what you're saying about earlier about drawing being very important to you. I think a good painting, if it's a good painting, it's because your drawing skills are really good in general, no matter who you are. I think when you look at, whether it's edge control or beautiful shapes, the silhouette is nice. That all comes from drawing. You can learn that through painting, but I think the natural path to those skills is through drawing. And because you have that, you're going to kick ass in murals if you do it.
Yeah, but I think you're not touching on the difficulty of how hard murals are. The planning, the scaling of it. It's a really challenging thing.
And you get to walk around and do some physical work. But once again, honestly, if you do it, it's going to be... I think it's going to be easy for you. Just saying.
we need to collaborate one day, maybe.
Let's do it.
Possibly.
There's plenty of roles. Hey, if you want to get out and do some art, I'm down.
Man, I'd love to.
I wanted to ask you, so do you foresee yourself doing more traditional medium beyond pencil?
Yeah, here's a funny thing. I paint not super frequently, but a lot more frequently now, and it's a weird thing. I feel weird even saying this out loud, but I don't even mean for people to see them. Like, I have a few paintings at home that just relax me, but
maybe that's the goal.
It is my pure expression. It is like it's part of me, but Yeah, maybe it'll be a lot more of that. Maybe hanging out with you will.
Let's do it.
I don't know. I feel not like a fraud in that space, but I just feel. I don't know. It's very unusual for me. This paint this.
In the traditional medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Why?
I think because. I think what I want to say with painting, I haven't really established or defined yet. So for now, it's just they're more exercises or feelings
Mm-hmm.
that I'm trying to convey. So, yeah. But I think these discussions really, they make my brain go, and I started thinking a lot more about them. So maybe if we can collaborate and paint together. I mean,
As always, let me know.
I want to paint with you, man. I think that'd be a
Dude.
lot of fun.
Like I said, I guess I'll let you know. You know where to find me, so we can definitely
Exactly.
make that happen.
I feel like also to branch on that, I feel like in my youth, I used to want to try to do everything. I was animating, I was editing, I was drawing, painting, all that stuff. And I felt like, what's that line that Bilbo Baggins said? Butter scraped over too much bread. I felt like that. I felt like I wasn't solidifying myself in one area of expertise. And it wasn't until I read the book Mastery, I think by Robert Greene.
Oh yeah.
If I'm not
heard about
mistaken.
that one. Yep.
I saw the power of, or he helped me see the power of focusing on one skill. And I think for now, it's much like Muay Thai. It's really the only thing I'm focusing on. I'm not also doing jiu-jitsu and boxing and powerlifting. I'm trying to limit my focus. And for now, my focus is just on concept design / storytelling. Those can kind of be in the same branch. And I think when I do eventually, because I will branch out into fine art, I think that'll be a different chapter. And I really want to focus on that solely and not have external things pulling me sideways, if that makes sense.
It definitely does. I'm still learning all about that focus and trying to, and I can have some plans and foresee in the future of how to be a little bit more efficient, or maybe like you said, take these little chapters and instead of trying to do everything, maybe half a year is going to be this one thing, and the next half a year is another. The beauty of art is that one is going to make the other better no matter what. Yeah. And I'm noticing, and hopefully I'm correct, I find that illustration can be, and the field of illustration can be the middle point between concept art and fine art. I think you get to do both depending on the project that you get, and hopefully, and in my mind, the way I do murals is I think of them as illustrations, and I'm hoping that there can be a marriage of those.
Well, anyone who's seen your murals would see a very strong sense of story.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and there's.
Look at you, so nice to me.
I'm not. Listen, man, I don't even like you. I'm just being honest. I'm just like, I'm kidding. No, but no, I'm just calling it how I see it, dude.
Thanks.
I see a lot of, like a lot of fresh storytelling in your work, and yeah, you're right. And who's to even describe what fine art is? Oh man.
But it's a good and a bad thing about fine art is that there's no explanation or reason.
Yeah, I can't believe that's the only siren that's gone off since we've been talking. Usually it's every 5 minutes.
It's because they know we're recording, so.
Oh yeah, you had to talk with him.
Yeah.
Ilya's a man about town. He has the connects.
Some connects. Do you know artist Alberto Mielgo?
I love Alberto Mielgo, man.
There you go. So
he's a crazy son of a bitch, I'm sure.
And as an example of a guy who's doing it all, it's kind of like what you're saying. He's an illustrator.
Yeah.
He does fine art. He does motion graphics, animation, and he's a superstar. He's one of those people that you get like one in a million kind of. Yeah. But he's a person to look up to.
He's a huge inspiration for me, and he bridges those mediums so seamlessly. It seems the painting, the animation, the storytelling. He's got a new short he's working on that's coming out soon. So I can't wait for that.
Looks so good. Okay, let's actually while you're speaking, I gotta try to look it up because there's a little trailer and it's beautiful.
It seemed like he worked on that new Spider-Man animated show.
It looks right.
It seems very stylistically like him, but
either that or everyone's copying him. And I think it's funny how you think nothing new can be brought, like a new style can be brought in. Yeah. And honestly, a new style is just you take one thing you like and another thing you like, put it together, it's a new thing. And so, but what he's done, it's so refreshing and beautiful. I think he's a perfect inspiration for people to follow. I hope it's kind of the right stuff to look at. I would say.
I actually can see a correlation with your work and his.
I love his work. The guy is just incredible.
And I don't think he he wasn't. I don't think he ever really worked for a company. I can't imagine him working.
You can't hold him down
in front of a computer. But his model of living is something that I want my life to kind of emulate a lot more going forward. Just that freedom of expression and the freedom of which software to use, how he wants to tell the story. There's so many different ways, and it'll very very much feels like Alberto Mielgo. And
I would say you're halfway there. The fact that you're taking your life and the projects into your own hands, I think that's like a half step there to allow yourself to have the time to do it.
Right.
Then, because I'll be honest, a lot of artists I hear, including myself, speak about wanting to do that. It's a dream. And the reality is it's not right for most people, or for some people.
Well,
I'll say some people.
Sometimes it's hard because you're imagining the dream, but you're also thinking of, I want to make $1 million with film. I don't think that's the right approach. I don't think that's even what Alberto thinks. I think he just wants to create and be true to himself.
And let's not forget the fact that we're, being in Canada, quite fortunate to even have that possibility, right? So I think that's why there's a lot of these elements that come into play to even being able to have, if you want that opportunity, you can take it. Yeah. That's one. And let's say, many artists, especially North America, have that opportunity, and many speak about it, but taking that step to, you leave your job, you start freelancing, you find a way to be stable through your income without spending 40 hours in a week on it. Yeah. And so then eventually cut down, you allow yourself more time, and or that's one way to do it, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
With you saying I'm halfway there, it's very true, because there's a lot of, I'm almost 10 years working in the industry. There's a lot of who and what I am, I kind of have to kill, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And because it's just those traits of me, like, the structure of working under a company and as a designer, I sort of have to kill some of that mentality where I can fully allow myself to create on my own and think that my ideas are worth it, and that
you have to stop caring, right? You have to stop caring for that.
Stop caring for some things and care more for others. Mm-hmm. It's a shift. It's a shifting of the balance, shifting of the spectrum, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And Alberto, he's great, man.
Look up
true inspiration.
The windshield wiper.
Is that done yet?
Let's see.
I love that intro.
Yeah, it's so relaxed and
chill. We're looking on his Instagram for you guys listening along.
Who did it first? Kyle J. Scott or Alberto Mielgo? I don't know.
Kyle J. What's that?
He's a local artist. I gotta show you. Oh. This is a terrible way of podcasting. I'm showing images, but
just keep on bringing up images. We'll talk about it, but then never mention what we're looking at.
Kyle Scott is
he a guy who has a similar stylistic approach?
Just there's these buildings, but
those are the highest shorts I've ever seen on a man, aren't they?
They're pretty.
You can almost see his ass crack.
Do not. Well, yeah.
Oh, look at that.
But
damn. This is a Vancouver guy?
Yeah.
Damn, that's Kyle, very similar.
I think you may have done it better.
Chicken or the egg? Damn, who came first? That's really interesting.
Anyways, look up the windshield wiper, scroll down, and then go to Kyle's website.
That's funny.
But I think Kyle did it better. Just saying.
Yeah?
Anyways.
Like, you think he paints windows better?
Look at the colors, though, the color palettes. We shouldn't discuss that podcast. Anyways, let's keep going. Both guys are incredible. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right, let's throw a couple of questions, because I think we're almost running out of time. Let's do this. What is or what would be your ideal lifestyle? Are you living your ideal lifestyle right now?
Kind of. I mean, that's as long as I'm creating, I don't really give a fuck. I'm able to create. That's a blessing. I can. I mean, with the exception of having clients, but even that's fun. If I could describe a lifestyle to my 5-year-old self, where I could work on movies, but then I'd have free time to do my own projects and enough money to travel and do essentially whatever I want, then I'm kind of doing that. I mean, my ideal lifestyle is where I think going forward, I want to own and operate a school here in Vancouver.
Good.
Which might happen. Stay tuned.
Oh my God. Can you believe this?
Can you believe it, folks? And then
get on it. This is going to be amazing.
I want to also own and operate a studio with my friends and create
Could be
artwork.
Both.
Yeah.
Could be a thing like a thing that Oh,
I'm giving you an expression.
He's already thought of it. You're not seeing it, but he's got it. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, Vancouver is excited. I'll say that.
I'm really excited about the future. So my ideal lifestyle, I think maybe more yoga. We were talking about that before.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think a bit more yoga in my life. I'm very stiff. My back always hurts.
I'm gonna get Andrew to come to hot yoga with me. We're gonna sweat and do podcasts.
I think that would help. We're gonna sweat. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's bring these mics in hot yoga. That'd be great. Would that even affect the quality of sound? Just so anyway, just breathing.
The thing is that halfway through the class, one thing I've noticed that in the beginning I want to have thoughts and I have them, but in the end, I want thoughts so I can relax from my body hurting, but I can't have thoughts because you're so exhausted.
That's a good question. Do you ever go into yoga with intentions? Like
I try.
Because it's almost, it's obviously meditative, right?
I think because of how much focus you have to put on it, I find that it actually quiets my mind unintentionally, meaning without me realizing it, it becomes quiet. Because I do try, my brain, the way I think is I always try to plan things and, I got to do this thing and this piece of art needs to be done, but it really helps because I can't, it's hard to think about other stuff while I'm there.
Right, totally.
It's like 1.5 hour in a sauna doing yoga, so.
You ever do that float tank?
Not yet, soon.
Oh man.
I keep saying soon, but have you?
I mean, I'm not going to expand too much on it, but I'll just say do mushrooms in a float tank and for 4 hours straight. Make friends with the guys who work there and try it out.
Unless you're going to be paranoid and freaking out in a black room, but.
No, that for anyone who does a float tank, I feel like anyone who listens to Joe Rogan would understand about it. But
you know if you know.
You know if you know. I'm not going to get into it like I know too much about it, but yeah, I like that stuff.
You gave out a lot of advice today. This is a pretty good one as well.
Did I? I don't know. I feel like we're just chatting it up.
We are, but especially I think maybe without you realizing, I think you're the lessons and the insight that you're bringing is very important, and especially you being on that level. That was a really long silence. On a really high level, but I find it very valuable just for myself, and I hope for other people as well.
Oh, well, thank you, man. I feel like I'm at a transition point, so it's a lot of stay tuned. Let's see. I might be on the streets in 4 weeks. Let's see how it goes. No, probably not, but
most like I do not believe it, but I do want you. I think it would be great for you to come back later.
Yeah.
Let's say in a year. Like you said, because
guess what, guys? I fucked up. Didn't make it. No. Okay.
Back to working at Starbucks. No.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not going to happen. And let's see, another one. What would you say your biggest failure is or was?
Biggest failure. That's a really good question. Damn, I like these. Biggest failure. Yeah, I don't know if it's a failure, but just because I think I would have got to where I am, maybe in a shorter amount of time, maybe not. I wish I went to a better school earlier on. I think being in a classroom setting and having your peers critique your work, which wasn't really a thing where I went to school here in Vancouver, I think I would have benefited a lot from that. And
that's a big one. The way you set up that path, especially in the beginning, plays such a huge role.
But if I didn't go to those schools, I wouldn't have known animation. I wouldn't have known how to edit. I acquired a lot of skills from these the series of ragtag schools I went to. Not ragtag, but you know what I mean.
And those skills, sometimes you may not even realize it, but it seems like they help so much.
I'm hoping it all comes together because I have so many different interests, and I'm hoping that's going to come together in this. And I see the end goal being actually filmed because,
Oh, man. Awesome.
Does that make sense? I don't know.
It really does. Okay, I got you. Last one for you, and we're going to have to get out, unfortunately.
All right.
What advice would you give your younger self before you went to post-secondary?
Oh, man, these are fantastic.
I leave the hardest for the end, yeah.
Well,
what advice would you give your younger self before you went to post-secondary?
Before I went to post-secondary? Yeah. Before high school? Damn.
No, before just university or...
Oh, yeah. Is that what...
Or maybe, am I just wording it
wrong?
No,
because secondary school is high school. Damn.
Oh, yeah. No, you got this.
I didn't go to high school, guys. I would have... Oh, here's what I would have done. I would have taken time off because I didn't take a summer off. I went right from high school to the Art Institute. I would have traveled.
Mm-hmm.
I would have... it sounds really cliche, but I would have discovered myself. I would have failed a lot more in life than in art, if that makes sense.
So you're saying go travel? Is that what
go travel, make some mistakes, be wild, be crazy. Not necessarily, with drugs or whatever, but just go be vulnerable. I think and for a lot of students that I was teaching in my class, I feel like they hadn't lived a lot of life, and so what they brought to the table in terms of design wasn't inherently interesting. And I think those are things you just develop through experience and time and interests. And so
it all goes back to being that person, being an interesting person, or being like full of experiences to bring back into your art, right?
Yeah. And one last thing I can say, which is the most important thing, if and when I ever have kids, I'm going to instill this in them 100%, is have confidence in yourself. Have confidence in what you're trying to say. Not necessarily your abilities. Your abilities are always going to start from zero for the most part, but what you're trying to say, the vision you're trying to say, what you're trying to give to the world, be confident in that, because everyone should feel like they're useful, and I feel like I didn't always feel like that. So that's a pretty important thing.
That's a very good advice to end on.
Right on.
Andrew,
it's been a pleasure, man. We're shaking hands now, guys. You can't see it, but
because this guy is just
let me give you that. That was a bad handshake.
There you go. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, man.
Really
it's been a lot of fun.
Definitely gonna have to get you back on. I'm gonna keep following your journey.
Right on.
Can't wait
Likewise.
for the school to open up in the studio. So you said it's gonna happen. So you have no.
I said it, so now I got to do it.
It's happening. Tell people how they can find you online and this thing up.
You can find me Andrew Doma, DOMA is my handle on Twitter, Instagram, and ArtStation. And if you want to add me on Facebook and say hello, you can find me through Andrew Domachowski.
Go check out his art, because it's a beauty and really inspiring, and can't wait to see what comes next, especially the storytelling side you keep telling us. So very exciting.
We'll see.
All right, people. Thanks for listening. If you want to learn more about Creative Theory Podcast, I'm going to have, we are on Instagram and Facebook, Creative Theory Podcast. We're going to start a dance and a party in here. So,
good song, man.
This is, let's see, The Moon of Pijang by Instant Particle and Brooks. Those names are impossible to say, but enjoy.
I got to get this list from you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Love you all, and going to be back in 2 weeks. Thanks to Save on Radio. Shout out to Pedro Amato. Check out Vault 100. It's good stuff. All right. Bye.
Bye.